This is the Four Principles, Season 1, Chapter 5. In this episode, we will be returning to our discussion of Season 1, Chapter 3 of the Four Principles. In Season 1, Chapter 3, we talked about how a particle accelerator must overcome polarity in the electromagnetic repulsion of positively charged hydrogen atoms to produce collisions that reveal a lower scale of interaction. In that episode, we talked about how emotional coupling of structures must reach some critical frequency to overcome the polarity of nonlinear intersections. Specifically, we see that as higher frequencies of emotional coupling are obtained, postural releases are mirrored, preventing nonlinear intersections. Thus, beyond some critical frequency, nonlinear intersections stretch, revealing more time, spatial displacement, longer dialogues, more familiarity, and other impulses affirmed and negated in coupled arrangements. However, that was only part of the story. If we return to the particle accelerator example, polarity must be overcome to reveal interactions of a lower scale. But once the repulsive force of the two positively charged hydrogen atoms is overcome, to split those hydrogen atoms, the strong nuclear force must be then overcome. That is, within our putative digital structure, beyond some critical frequency, there is an attraction between emotionally coupled individuals represented by common affirmation and negation of specified impulses, union. That is, in resonance, in attaining a higher frequency of emotional coupling, there is a common affirmation, which is accretive to expression of given impulses. In other words, certain structures maintain a set resonance frequency range, above which and below which nonlinear intersections compel phase flips in a bodily rhythm or cycle. These frequency ranges correlate to the 5 hierarchical domains described in the podcast episode, The Tree of Life, Season 31, Chapter 5. That is, phase flips in a bodily rhythm or cycle are skipped over when a structure member is maintained within a given frequency range due to the mirroring of postural releases. However, if that structure member sublimates, slowing down phase flips of a given impulse set, not set pairing, then it moves out of the frequency range associated with that domain, which causes a phase flip in a bodily rhythm or cycle. We must imagine that the attraction of a given resonance frequency is akin to the union implicit in the Four Principles, which is analogous to the binding force represented by the strong nuclear force in subatomic particles. This attraction lifts a structure member out of the polarity of preferential expectation matching and dual valence through nonlinear intersections, which reflect the affirmational union of structure members through synchronicity. The time in nonlinearity and the spatial displacement reflect the stability of the resonance frequency in a given domain. That is, the attraction represented by resonance frequencies specified by a given domain is the affirmational energy of the domain. The affirmation of each individual impulse for each structure member is amplified by the mirroring implicit to the emotional coupling. However, at some level of amplification, at some frequency above the resonance frequency of that domain, the result is a phase flip in a bodily rhythm or cycle, just as sublimation slows the phase flip, causes the same. In other words, there are two critical frequencies. The first is the frequency at which polarity is overcome by emotional coupling, resonance, by mirroring of postural releases. The second is the highest bound of the frequency range associated with a domain, where more tight mirroring simply leads to more frequent unshared postural releases and nonlinear intersections, overcoming union. That is, we expect the second critical frequency to reveal a distinct flavor of nonlinear intersection, not only stretched with larger temporal spatial displacements, but more frequent. In other words, we would expect to see layered nonlinearity beyond the second critical frequency. That's the end of the podcast for today.